Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Our topic today is the Xcel updates. My name is Claudia Kretschmer. I'm the Xcel National Chair, and presenting with me today is Diane Palmer, the Xcel Regional Chair for Region 2. So I'd like to start out by talking about our Xcel program philosophy. Every year in our meetings, we start out our meetings by talking about our philosophy and reviewing our philosophy, and all of our rules are based off of the philosophy of the program. The Xcel program's philosophy is to be inclusive, to include gymnasts and athletes of various levels and abilities, and to offer a range of possibilities. To be able to offer lower cost and less time commitment, and have the emphasis be on excellence rather than difficulty. Mobility is probably one of the topics that we get most of our questions from, and there are no changes in the mobility, but I would like to review that with you today. From JO to the Xcel program, levels 1 and 2 must enter at the Xcel bronze or silver divisions. Level 3 may enter at silver or gold. Level 4 must enter at the gold division. Levels 5 and 6 must enter at platinum, and levels 7 and above must enter at diamond. There continues to be no mobility from Xcel to the JO program. So if you are trying to go from Xcel to JO, please follow the R&P for JO mobility. So new this year, petitions from state meet to regionals. So if your region has a qualifying procedure to their regional meet, if a gymnast is injured during her 4th event at the state meet, she may petition to regionals if the scores on her first 3 events total 75% of the regional petitioning score. That's a lot of verbiage. So to give you an example, if the qualifying score is a 36, you would add 1.0 to that 36, and that would be the regional petitioning score. You would then take 75% of that, and that athlete would have to score a 27.75 on her first 3 events to petition from the state meet to the regional meet. This does not apply if the qualification is by percentage or a designated number per age group to the regional meet. So the update to rules and policies. There's a verbal cues deduction clarification. A deduction may be taken if the gymnast is being given specific verbal cues, such as stick it, get your legs straight, smile, and this can be from the coaches or the athletes on the floor. The deduction is only taken after a warning is given, and that would be a flat 2/10 deduction. So new change deductions. The first is incorrect attire. There is a warning on the first event, and then a one-time deduction of 1/10 is taken on the next event. And note, on page 11 in the Code of Points is incorrect. That will be corrected. The hip heel pad deduction is the same as JO, which is a 2/10 deduction. If a fall occurs after spot upon landing, each judge deducts an additional 5/10 for the fall. So it would be 5/10 for the spot plus 5/10 for the fall. So if a coach is spotting a flyaway dismount and he spots her, she lands and then falls, the deduction would be 5/10 for the spot plus 5/10 for the fall. So I would suggest if you're going to spot to make sure she stays on her feet. You don't have to move your hands away because you're already getting that 5/10 deduction. Now, if the coach is catching the gymnast as she falls, she's already landed, but you see she's over rotating and you quick put your hands in there so she doesn't hit her head, that would just be the 5/10 deduction for the fall. So you may go in and save your athlete from injury if that is needed. A restricted element clarification. An element is restricted at a division based upon its value that's listed in the Xcel code of points. The restriction is not based on the execution or the amplitude of that skill performed. So for example, in gold balance beam, if a gymnast performs a switch leap on beam, that would be a C element. If she performs it to just 120 degrees, which is the division requirement for that division, she would still receive no special requirement credit, no value part credit, and a 5/10 deduction for doing a restricted element. So we have some new boards that are offered this year, and they're called the EVO boards, which is a leaf spring type board. This board is allowed at competitions. However, the meet director is required to provide a coil spring board and an alternative tramp type board at the meet. Pit pillows. This is allowed on bars for any type of a release move, which is only affects the diamond level, and it must be removed immediately after the skill is performed. So a general clarification, composition deductions are not applied in the Xcel program. The Xcel program has never had composition deductions, and it continues to be the same. So we're going to move on to vault. The bronze vault, the only change in bronze vault is that the max stack height for the mat is 48 inches plus or minus 1 inch. And this is to be consistent with the silver mat stack. So it makes it easier for meet directors and equipment companies to provide equipment for the meets. Clarification on bronze vault. If upon landing, the gymnast slides off the mat stack or she lands partially off the mat, the vault is considered complete, and this is not a fall. So you would consider body shape as she first landed. The gymnast may then go to her feet on the matting and salute, and not on the mat stack. She does not have to get back up onto the mat stack to finish. So we have a couple of examples of that. So you would look at her body shape upon landing, and she finished off the mat stack. And we have another example here.
Okay.
In this one, she lands and then slides off. So again, you look at her body shape upon landing, and you would not deduct for a fall or getting off the mat. So we have a new silver vault this year, and the new silver vault will be performed over a mat stack. It is a resi mat that's sideways, and it may be from 5 feet to 10 feet in width and must be 5 feet in length. So a lot of the equipment companies, which most of them have, made a mat specific for this vault. You are not required to buy the new matting. Again, it can be from 5 feet to 10 feet in width. So you may use a resi mat or the new 5x5 mats that many of the equipment companies are making. The height of the mat stack goes from 24 inches to 48 inches, plus or minus 1 inch. Some of the companies have made a curved front, and that is allowed but not required. A mat, panel mat may be placed on the top layer. If the surface is softer and they want a little harder surface, they may place a panel mat on the top. There are 2 vault options. The option 1 is a handspring over the mat stack, or option 2 would be a quarter on to half on, repulsion off. Additional twisting is not allowed. They may use a springboard or an alternative board, and all vaults, regardless of the board used, start from a 10.0. Again, emphasis and focus is on body shape, not height or distance. So we have some examples of the handspring vault. And being used here is a 24-inch 5x5 mat, and that's sitting on top of an 8-inch mat. And you can see some various levels doing this vault. Do we have one more? No. Okay. And option number 2 would be the quarter on to half on repulsion off. And we have a few of those. And again, we're looking at body shape. You see some piking down, see some separation of legs. We're not looking for height. They should have some repulsion, but not required to have a lot of repulsion. Okay, a change in start values in the diamond division to get more of these in line with each other. So a half on repulsion to the feet went from a 9.6 to a 9.4. A quarter on to a quarter off, landing facing away from the table, is now a 9.4 start value. The half twist on to a full twist off, or the quarter on to 1 1/4 off, is now a 9.9. And the Yurchenko timer, which is a round off flip-flop on repulsion off to the feet, went from a 9.6 to a 9.4. Alternative springboard rules. At the bronze and silver divisions, the alternative springboard may be used, and this does not affect the start value. So the start value will remain the same in the bronze and silver divisions. In the gold division, if using the alternative springboard, they would then have a 9.5 start value. And in the platinum and diamond divisions, this is not allowed and the vault would be considered a void. Okay, we're going to move on to bars, and Diane is going to be presenting the bars portion.
So starting with our uneven bar changes, there are no changes in the bronze division, no changes in special requirements at all. This new change actually refers to both silver and gold, but we'll talk about silver first. So the cast special requirement and the cast requirement for an A value part are both now a minimum of 45 degrees below horizontal, which means they can no longer receive an A value part cast for a cast where their hips just leave the bar, or if it's lower than 45 degrees below horizontal. The impact for this is that many casts into dismounts will no longer receive value part credit. So last year's silver bar routine may need another skill, and you'll have to count the skills carefully for your athletes. The gymnast either hits the angle or not, and if she does not, then there's no value part credit. This makes all the divisions consistent with their special requirement angle requirement and what would count as an A cast. In this example, we have silver uneven bars. And again, just a reminder that the cast special requirement and the requirement for an A value part is a minimum of 45 degrees below horizontal. There is no value part credit for a cast that is below the 45 degrees below horizontal. In this routine, you will see an athlete that actually does have her 5 skills. Here is her pullover, and her first cast easily reaches 45. Then she has a baby cast that doesn't give her anything, and then she has a cast that again is 45 below horizontal into her back hip circle. The question now is, if her second cast that went into her back hip circle had not been 45, and she had her cast into her soul circle dismount, that may or may not have been given credit for 45 below horizontal. So had she not done that second bigger cast into the cast back hip circle, it's possible she would only have 4 skills in this routine. So that is something that as coaches, you will have to watch carefully for, and judges, you will have to be aware of making sure that you are counting the skills for those routines. And just a reminder that this same principle applies to gold. So golds can only get value part credit for casts that reach horizontal. Okay, moving on to special requirement changes. These requirement changes apply at gold, platinum, and diamond. So a gold SR number 2 is now a skill finishing in clear support at horizontal. Again, the mount and dismount are not eligible for that. So this means that there are other skills besides a cast that could be used to fulfill this requirement. At platinum, it continues to be above horizontal for their angle requirement, and at diamond, 45 degrees from vertical. Again, in all these situations, the mount and dismount are not eligible. So again, a gold, platinum, and diamond, it now is a skill finishing in clear support at a specified angle. And other skills that might fulfill this special requirement, as long as they meet the angle requirement, are our casts. Clear hip circles could finish in that clear support position. A giant, a toe on, toe off, a stalder, what might be some of the skills that you will see. I think that for the most part, we will mostly see casts, maybe some clear hips at gold, and then clear hips and giants might well affect platinums and diamonds that have a harder time doing a cast, but they can in fact do a clear hip higher. Remember that it is that skill, if they used a clear hip, for example, at gold to go to horizontal, but their cast was below, they can fulfill 2 special requirements. It would be a skill finishing at clear support, and it would be a circle 360-degree circling skill. And we do have some examples. So in this first routine, she does her hip cast to horizontal, but her clear hip goes to handstand. So if this was a diamond athlete, she would fulfill 2 special requirements with her clear hip. On the next skill, she did do her, and if she was a diamond, her cast was 245, so she would be okay. In this third example, you will see that she also can do her hip or her cast and a clear hip to 45. So at the diamond division and platinum or gold also, that would be okay for those special requirements. Now this refers to a reminder about our casts that count as 1 skill. A cast into a squat on cannot count for the cast special requirement. Cast, squat on, jump to the bar, high bar is 1 skill. Here we have a castaway dismount that is allowed only at bronze. That cast cannot count for the special requirement. This third example is the cast shoot through. That also cannot count for their cast requirement no matter how high it goes. And in our fourth example, she does a cast into a soul circle dismount. Now, depending on the height of that cast, that could count as 2 skills. That one might have worked for a silver athlete, but it would not for sure worked for, well, they can't do it from the low bar anyway, but say that had been on the high bar, that degree of cast could not have counted for a gold or a platinum. Do we have our next slide? Here is an example of another skill that could count for a skill finishing in clear support, and that is the uprise. Her uprise clearly finished at horizontal, although she finished with a clear hip to handstand, which would be a restricted skill at gold. This at platinum or diamond would get a B for the uprise, and then the C for the clear hip handstand that followed it. Our special requirement number 3 has changed to read a minimum B skill, either a release pirouette or second 360-degree circling skill, same or different. And the addition of same gives the athletes more options. They may do 2 clear hip circles in a row on the low bar, and they would fulfill both of their circling special requirements. They could do 2 giants in a row on the high bar, and that would work. Or they could do 2 clear hips, one on the low, one on the high, a clear hip on the low, a giant on the high. So it gives those diamond athletes some maybe better and clearer options for what they can do for this special requirement. Special requirement number 4 has changed to read a hacked or salto dismount from the high bar. We have some additional skills that have been added to the skills chart. The pullover mount can be done at silver and gold on the high bar or the low bar. And you'll see an example of this. And in fact, also because we have no, or the Xcel program has no change of bar requirement, it is possible to see a routine done entirely on the high bar. This would probably be for silver or gold because the pullover only applies to silver and gold for on the high bar for an A value part. A new dismount that is available for silver only is from a rear support, a 3/4 seat circle backward. And this is again from low bar only and only for silver athletes. You will see a couple of ways to get into this dismount. So it's from kind of a seat circle position. And this athlete is going to straddle to the position and do it in a straddle position. Of course, they must get their legs together when they land. Okay, just a clarification that the stretch jump off low bar forward that can be performed by bronze and silver athletes, the beginning position does not matter. They must do the stretch just dismount. In the next slide, you will see examples that they may start from a squat or a pike or a straddle position and then do their stretch jump off. The stretch jump will be evaluated on its amplitude and body position. And I believe the last athlete will do this from a straddle on. So she would have 2 skills, cast straddle on and the stretch jump dismount for 2 skills. And
all right, our next event is balance beam. Thank you, Diane. So there are no changes to bronze, silver, platinum, and the diamond divisions, but we are going to go over some clarifications and gold division. So a change in special requirement number 2 for gold is 2 different group 2 skills, which are your leaps, your jumps, and hops. One is with a minimum of 120-degree cross or side split, and it may be isolated or in a series. The split angle is now 120 degrees requirement, and they no longer have to have a dance series. So here you will see a couple of examples. We have a split jump connected to a straight jump, and that would be in series. And now we have a straight leg leap, which is now a B. She poses and then does a tuck jump. So these are not connected, and they are both acceptable for special requirements for special requirement number 2. So we have a change or addition, and we're adding the headstand in any position, and no hold is required to group 5 holds and stands in the code of points. So we'll show you some examples. And this is a headstand. She is not completely over with her legs, but she hits a headstand position with her body, and that would be acceptable. They do not have to hold it. So just marking the position is fine. And this little nugget is trying it as a mount and did a sideways headstand, which I think is pretty cute. All right, so new, all beam mounts in all divisions will receive an A value part unless it's listed as a higher value part in the Xcel code of points. So we have some examples of some mounts. Just jumping on in rear support or straddle over, that would be considered an A mount. But she fell off. She did not get onto the beam, so that one would not receive credit, and the second one would on the shoot through. So let's look at the third example and see what we would give credit for. And she kind of crawls up there, but it's still an A. And this one uses the support to get up on the beam, and that would not be considered an A mount. Okay, there's a change in the criteria for the switch leap. The first leg should swing to a minimum of 45 degrees forward prior to the switch. If she does not reach the 45 degrees, you would still award the C value part credit, but deduct for insufficient height of that leg swing up to 1/10. And no stag is allowed on the switch split to receive C value part credit. So let's look at a couple of examples. She definitely swings forward, but it does not hit the 45 degrees. And even though this athlete has a lot of height and amplitude, the leg would be questionable how far she swung that leg. So that would be a judgment call for that one. So let's look at a couple other examples. And she stagged, so she would not receive credit. Now they would still receive credit and A credit for a leap, but they would not receive a switch leap credit, which would be a C. So we now have a little chart to help you understand the leaps and the jumps criteria for the split positions. So if you look at this chart, this is the gold division, gold and platinum division, and it's a 120-degree requirement. If they are within 20 degrees of that requirement, they would still receive value part credit and special requirement credit, and up to 2/10 deduction. So if you're looking for the red to the blue, this angle here, that 20 degrees, they still get value part credit and special requirement credit. If they are below that in this range, then they would not receive special requirement or value part credit. So you receive both or you receive none. This area in here, if they're within that range between the 120 and 100, they would receive an up to 2/10 deduction.
So Claudia, if you don't mind my going.
Yes, go ahead.
In this slide, if an athlete did their, say, split jump to, let's say, 80 degrees, which would fall in the no special requirement part of that picture, they might receive the lower value part of a stretch jump with abstract legs or leg apart. So that might be an option, and it could count for a value part, but it would not meet their special requirement because the split was not big enough.
Okay, an element clarification. So from a lying position on the beam, the athlete pushes up to a bridge and then does the kickover. This is not considered a walkover. So a bronze athlete may get credit for this skill. So she lies on the beam, pushes to a bridge, and then kicks over. So that's a nice option for our bronze athletes as a lead up to their walkovers. So another element clarification, a gymnast must land with the foot on top of the beam before falling to receive value part credit or special requirement credit. So the exception to this rule would be a press handstand mount or a press handstand within the routine. So if they press to a handstand and then fall, they still get credit for the value part of the press to handstand. So let's look at some skills. So she just back walkovers but does not touch the beam at all, and she falls and she does not receive credit. She landed with her foot on top of the beam and then fell, so she would receive credit. And she tried to touch the beam but skims it and then falls to the side. So she would not receive credit for that. Okay, this is not new. It's just a reminder that any handstand within the exercise can be used as the first or second skill in an acro series. So a handstand, step down, cartwheel, or a cartwheel swing through to a handstand. Either one of those would be acceptable. Okay, some new change deductions. The concentration pause, that's now a deduction in JO, is also a deduction in Xcel. So a concentration pause for balance beam and floor, this is both events, but we'll go over it again on floor. Up to 2 seconds would be a 1/10 deduction, and more than 2 seconds would be a 2/10 deduction. There is a procedural clarification. Time warm-ups on beam may not be staggered. So if you're in a competition and they are warming up for the event in between turns, this is not allowed. You may do a 30-second touch warm-up between turns, but you cannot do their continual 30 seconds or warm up between turns at a competition. Okay, we're going to move on to floor. And good news, no changes to requirements in any divisions, but we do have some clarifications for you. So on floor, the round-off rebound backward roll may be performed to the knee, and this is an acceptable series. So we have a couple of examples of this for you. The round-off rebound, backward roll, both knees, and then can do some choreography out. And this one lands on one knee and one foot, and that's fine as well. Okay, Diane's going to go over the tourjete ring.
So the tourjete ring leap with a half turn is a new skill with a value part of a D. So this skill, this leap, will only be available for diamond athletes. And for those of you that don't know this skill, it kind of looks like a strug, but it has a ring leap in it. And then just to reiterate the switch leg leap change in leg position criteria, the first leg should swing to a minimum of 45 degrees prior to the switch. And if it does not reach that 45 on floor, it would receive B value part still, but you would deduct up to 1/10 for insufficient height of leg swing. Remember, if that leg swing is stagged, then that cannot receive the B value part. On floor, as Claudia mentioned, we do now have a concentration pause prior to difficult elements or acrobatic series, and that is up to 2/10, and each time that would be 1/10 deduction, and that is a flat 1/10 deduction. Okay, the same principle for our leaps and jumps that are looking for the specific straddle and split position, that same principle applies to diamond. So for diamond, their requirement is, for their angle, is 150 degrees. And if they reach 150 degrees, there would be no angle deduction. Remember, there can always be other execution deductions like body posture, legs, and foot positions. If the angle meets or exceeds the standard for the division, then there is no deduction for the angle. So if an athlete, a diamond athlete, did a 135 switch split on floor, she would receive her B value part, and she would have an up to 2/10 deduction for the angle. If she did it at 150 or above, then she would receive the B value part, but there would be no deduction for the angle on that skill.
Okay, just a reminder on floor, acro skills with hand support are eligible to receive value part credit regardless of the number of times performed, and they may also fulfill special requirements, provided that the series in which they are performed are different. So example, for a gold routine, if your athlete does a round off back handspring for her first pass, and then does a round off back handspring for her second pass, this is acceptable. Those are two different tumbling passes. So that would be acceptable and would fulfill requirements, special requirements. So I'd like to tell everybody that if you have any questions, the proper chain of command would be to go to your National Xcel Committee first, to your regional representatives. So our regional reps, I will review, this is in the rules and policies and also in the code of points. So you may find their email addresses on those sites. So Region 1 is Jill Preston. Region 2 is Diane Palmer. Region 3 is Louis Janicki. Region 4 is Megan Robinson. Region 5, Nancy Gibson. Region 6 is Gail Kasperi. And Region 7 is Jane Caruso. And Region 8 is Elaine Wolf. We do have a technical committee representative that is on our committee, and that is Marion Dykes. And then our technical committee national chair is Cheryl Hamilton, and our JO committee national chair is Tom Cole. So your first chain of command would be to go to your regional chairs for any questions, and then they will bring those questions, if necessary, to the technical committee and to myself. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today, and thank Lorraine and Brad at the office for making these webinars possible and doing everything that they do there. All the work at the office has been amazing, and we appreciate everybody coming today. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email.